Welcome to the commentary booth, where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play by play commentator, Jamie Apps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by Phoenix Raei, a rising star of the Australian film industry. Phoenix has received praise for his performances in Stateless, The Night Agent, Clickbait, The Heights, Wentworth, Tehran, and 2017's Australia Day. Today, Phoenix joins us to chat about his latest upcoming film role in The Rooster alongside film icon Hugo Weaving. The Rooster follows Dan, Phoenix's character, a small town cop, after the body of his oldest friend is found in a shallow grave. During the investigation, Dan attempts to seek answers from a volatile hermit who may have been the last person to see his best friend alive. So without any further ado, let's get to our interview. Today, we're here to chat to our guest about their journey with acting and their latest film, The Rooster. Welcome to the show, Phoenix Raei.
Thanks for having me, mate.
My pleasure. Before we get into The Rooster, I'd like to sort of get to know a little bit more about your film and TV tastes. What would you say are your favorite movie and TV shows?
Um, it's been about a year that I haven't really watched much TV because I have a newborn, and it's been kind of tough trying to get to the TV. My taste changes. It's never static. It's hard. It's a hard question to answer, but I generally, I mean, I love the 1970s era films, when sort of there was like a bit of a renaissance in filmmaking in the US. I really like some of the stuff the Koreans are doing. I don't know if you've seen any sort of Korean thrillers like Memories of a Murder or I Saw the Devil or The Wailing. A little bit on the darker side.
Yep,
Um,
Parasite was a big one that I really loved.
Parasite is sort of the more commercial versions of those, but I like sort of the original voices that come out of those places. And obviously, my background's Iranian, so I do love certain Iranian cinema that delve into sort of social issues. The Iranian cinema is mainly surrounds social into relationships between people and sort of the subtleties of filmmaking, whereas the Koreans sort of focus on a little bit more of a impactful, sort of hard hitting stuff. So it just depends on my mood, but yeah, that sort of thing I do enjoy.
Okay. I can sort of see some of those inspirations in The Rooster and maybe why you wanted to be involved in this film then?
Yeah, totally, man. It's sort of in line with the script. Mark Winter, our writer director, wrote a beautiful script, and when I read it, I didn't know Hugo was attached or anything. He sent me the script. I was not in Australia, and I was on a different project, and he's like, "I really would love for you to like read this and see what you think." And when I read it, it did bring home some of those themes that I just mentioned, and it felt like it's in line with the vision, at least, of what I wanted to do next. And sort of came home for me when I read that. And I was like, this is something that I've been looking forward to do.
Okay. And was it just that it sort of hit those beats that that's stuff you like to watch, so that's why you wanted to be involved, or was there other elements that you latched onto?
Yeah, look, it was really like with scripts, I try and just let it affect me and not put my own thoughts on it in the initial read. And if I can have an emotional reaction to it, then I know that there's enough in there that keeps my curiosity up enough for me to chase, the rabbit hole that I need to find. It's a slug, the style of acting that I like to do. It's a slug. It's hard. It's not easy. So therefore, then the choices have to be particular, and they can't just be anything because it's demanding. And so therefore, when I read it, I allowed it to impact me, and when it did, and there's several things, mainly in the words that he wrote. That dialogue was so beautiful, especially the hermit's dialogue. For me, was really impactful. When you die, you become a tree. I mean, there's so much in every line that he wrote, that I felt like the writer was available for me to reach. in my work, and the writing was available for me. So then I was like, okay, tell me more about it. And they said, well, Hugo's attached as the hermit, and I could picture Hugo playing the hermit,
Mhm.
and I was like, I can definitely see that in really interesting character there. The challenge was how do I? It was a very short amount of time that I had that I could do this, so it wasn't a long period of time of preparation for the role. So the challenge was how do I bring something in front of in sort of collaboration with Hugo that's going to be a different voice, um, and still make its presence known. Reading the script and going, wow, this hermit is such a large character and there's so much there to just go at it. Whereas my character was so internal and sort of quiet that I had to make sure that there was enough layers that it would balance each other out and make it interesting. So that was the challenge. That was what was sort of, I was having a bit of a trepidation about. I'm not sure if I can do this because there's not enough time to. But anyway, Mark was wonderful and he was like, he assured me, just give me a bit more trust and we'll work together and make it happen. So that's how that came about.
Yeah, very nice. And yeah, I imagine sort of finding out Hugo was being attached to the movie as the other side of that, a little bit daunting given his sort of reputation and history in Australian film as well.
It was, and initially, it was exciting. But it goes from exciting to okay, and I really have to make sure that I do it justice, not just, but also, interestingly, when I met Hugo, it was over the phone, and within the first 5 minutes, all of those thoughts kind of disappeared because he just has this way of, I don't know, this ease about him that allows you to forego all your shadowing or your projections on him and just kind of see the man. And that really helps with building a relationship. So he was very good at allowing me to just not think about those things and just focus on what I needed to focus on. And he needed to focus on what he needed to focus on. And then we met on the battleground, so to speak, and we went forward with it.
It sounds like you probably learnt a lot from sort of working alongside him on this movie.
I'm always looking to learn for sure, man. Always, always. And it comes from the most incognito of places, the learning, the people on set, crew that are doing certain things that you go, oh, that's an interesting way of doing things. And then you go, well, I wonder how they think. And then all of a sudden you created a character off the light guy and the light guy has no idea. And you're like, I just see the guy every day and I just, grab something from him, especially when there's not enough time to like, prep for yourself. You prep as you go, sort of thing. But yeah, Hugo's technical ability, and his process was really interesting to watch, different to what I do. And I really enjoyed seeing that level of mastery done in such a different way.
And is that sort of people watching mindset something that's hard to break out of in your everyday life as well?
Yeah, it is actually. It's kind of annoying. You can't, there's like ticks or there's just mannerisms or things I'm always looking at. Not even consciously. I just kind of find people interesting based on certain things they do, and I just go, "Oh, that's I'm gonna use that one." You know what I mean?
Yep,
It's
yeah,
like
like
it's the best
you
source of income in
you
terms of
just go to
information.
sort of get a coffee or something, or you're sitting at the
Yeah,
airport waiting for a flight and you're just watching everyone and picking up on little
yeah,
nuances.
yeah. You got to be careful with that though, because you don't want to be like in their eyes. You know what
Yep.
I mean? You could get in trouble. Yeah.
So then, throughout the film, I picked up on some sort of themes of mental health, loneliness, isolation, guilt, and friendship. Are there any others? And what would you say is the core message of the film?
Um, you picked, yeah, all of those things, all of the above. But I would add, my sort of intention with Dan the character was was sort of to represent those people who lead lives of quiet despair. Um, and in a weird way, the hope was that through the journey with Hugo's character, that you could sort of recognize this light, that guiding light comes from the most like strange places that you don't expect, and that helped Dan get to where he needed to go to. So it's more of a positive twist on such a dark theme. I think by the end there's a subtle representation. I don't know if I can give the end away, but that sort of full circle of Dan's character represents the idea that all you have in front of you right now is good and can be good depending on your perception of it. And it doesn't necessarily mean there has to be a big change in your life or in your everyday work or whatever. It doesn't need You don't need that. What you need is the change of perception towards what you have in front of you, and potentially that can give you enough peace that you don't need to find yourself in that hell every day. And so that was sort of the theme, I think, that was really underlying everything else.
So then for the character, did you look anywhere in particular for inspiration, or was it more just looking internally at your own life
Um,
experiences?
no, I looked at a lot of documentaries. Um, I'm trying to remember the name of one of the documentaries that I looked at. I think it's called Peter's Farm. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a beautiful documentary, and it's about a man who buys his farm with his family. His wife leaves him, and he has to sort of deal with the animals and maintaining of the farm, which is a hard thing. And he's also an alcoholic, so all those themes hit Dan's sort of characteristics. But it was interesting how he dealt with it. And then internally, there are some things that inevitably come up that you have to use. But I first look outward before I look inward, and and the writing itself was sort of so clear for me that it created a journey that I didn't need to work too hard to add too much crap onto it. It's just like it's right there if I just manage to tap into it.
Okay. I guess that's always a positive when you go in and don't need to do too much work if it's all well
Yeah,
written
it's a
to begin
different
with.
kind of work. It's a different kind of work. You don't want to go in. You got to be careful exactly what you choose to do, because if you read a piece of writing and you go, I'm going to do this anyway, and then you go and you're like, I have to do extra work to get this to a place of neutrality and truth, and then on top of that, I got to do work to bring myself into it so I can believe that I am a person that is not me. You know what I mean? And so if the writing's there, the first stage is done for you. So you're like, sweet, mate. I'll just go through the rest. You know.
So then in terms of filming the movie, uh, a lot of it filmed out in the cold, damp environment of the Victorian Highlands. What was it
Yeah.
like filming out there, and how challenging was that process?
I had a very long winter. I was in Vancouver shooting something else, and then I flew there in winter. So I had like a double sort of winter. We were in an area called around Daylesford area, which is I would say the west, a little bit northwest of Melbourne, about 2 hours inland, and it snowed.
Oh,
And I don't think it snows in Daylesford, but I think that year is just super cold. It was a perfect sort of boost in a way to me, because I was able to use physically the environment to gather information for my inner life for the character. So it was actually a good way for me to work, but everyone else was kind of hating it. You know, every day going into the mud, trucks would get stuck in mud, and just and I'm going, yeah, baby, this is what I'm talking about. So it sets a really beautiful mood, and you don't have to, especially if you have a budget of that size, you don't need to add all this stuff to it. You can just go outside and set your light and blah 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 and shoot the thing, and it sets the mood for the audience as well as the actors.
have you got to have some summer now?
Well, I'm in Melbourne, so we just had a storm come literally through our little town. I'm about an hour away east of Melbourne, and we had trees down and pipelines, and we had no electricity. So now I've come back to the city. So it's been a weird summer. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a strange summer. Um, I did have summer in Europe. I was shooting a thing in Europe, and we had 4 months of summer, 40 degrees. So it was extreme weather each way. So it's been all right though. I can't complain.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of just need to just find a nice, like, spring, chilled out,
I don't know.
nice
Is there a
warm
place
weather.
in the world that has that right now? I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe like the Gold Coast or something, but then they've been getting the crazy storms as well, so it's a bit
Exactly.
hard to find
Yeah.
somewhere like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we take it day by day. One day it's summer, one day it's winter. It's okay.
Alrighty, I think that's pretty much everything. Thank you for joining me on the show this week. Why don't you sort of go ahead and let our audience know where they can track your creative journey and support the film moving forward?
I would urge everyone to go watch this film. I think it's got this really beautiful, quiet sensibility about it. It's a film that kind of you watch it and there's still some light and comedy in it in a weird way, but what's beautiful about it is that it stays with you after you watch it. So I hope everyone goes and watches it. It's going to be out in the cinemas on the 22nd of Feb. It's going to be all across Australia. You can go in my Instagram and I've got it on my just Phoenix Raei, and you can see the post there, and it'll tell you which state has what cinemas. And yeah, I would urge everyone to go watch it. It's a beautiful film, and just Hugo's performance in there is absolutely phenomenal. I would urge. I think it's his best work, and yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of Australian cinema.
Brilliant. Alrighty, thank you so much and good luck with everything for the rest of the year. Thank you for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed our show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow me on social media at JamYaps Media and at Pario Magazine. The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of JamYaps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/JamYaps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.